Hey guys, how's it going? Clint here. I just got a mic in recently, so I wanted to try that out. And I figured it would be a good time for me to talk about everything with my car. Give you guys an idea of what I have going on, what's going on with the car, what led us to where we're at, and maybe try to break some prices and things like that down. And I kind of threw a little list together here, so we'll go over it together. All right, guys, so we'll start off with the origin of the car. This car was originally built in Brazil at the Brazilian Volkswagen factory. And I actually found the original MSRP was $18,525. This is a 2002 Golf GLS 4-door ALH TDI. It had the 4-speed 01M transmission that everyone hates, including myself. Um, Tons of options, great sound system, and it's actually an overall fun car. The only car history that I really know of is that the previous owner had it for some years and he let his stepdaughter drive it. And I don't really know the reason for getting rid of it specifically. Unfortunately, it was a little bit abused, and that's why this process has kind of taken so long. As far as my history with it, I purchased this car in 2019, just a little while before the pandemic hit. I bought it as a commuter car. I was driving roughly 40 miles one way every day, 5 days a week to get to work, as I'm sure a lot of people are used to. And a big diesel truck is not something built for that. And the fuel mileage difference, sure, I was still using a full tank of fuel for a week's travel there and back from work, but at a third of the price of the truck, it was very hard to dislike this thing. The project itself, what led to all of this that you've seen parts of, or maybe all of, depending on how long you've been paying attention to it. I was coming home from work one night, going a little bit faster than I probably should have. And I had to get on the brakes kind of hard. And I noticed when I got on the brakes, it was not overly stiff on the pedal, but I kind of felt like I had to put a little bit more force than usual. And it felt like I wasn't stopping quite as fast. And we'll just say that I ended up stopping in time, but just barely. And all I could smell was brakes. And I just knew that I had some kind of problem going on that was not going to be fun to take care of at all. Um, but it ended up being all four rotors actually were quite bad. When we took the car off the road to do all that, it was only a few days later that we were going to button everything up and be done. And my dad noticed that the water pump was weeping. And unfortunately, with something like this, you're going to have to take the entire timing belt off to get the water pump changed. So that unleashed a whole new bag of worms that we weren't quite ready to deal with at the time. But that's what led us to this car becoming more of a project than just a daily, like it was originally intended or hoped to be used for. Um, as far as why this car, it was just the car that I had at the time. I found it through a friend of mine. A coworker of his had it. I said that I was interested in a commuter car because of my drive, um, but I didn't want to get a gas car. I just have never really cared for gas cars as much as diesel cars. For me personally, the fuel mileage and just the fact that they're a little bit more fun to drive, to me anyway, uh, was really what sold me on this thing. And like I said, the only reason that we're doing this with this car is just because it's what I had at the time, and I wanted to save it. I didn't want to just have to get rid of it for something stupid or just let it sit in the garage and not have anything done to it at all. Next up, we'll talk about plans. My plan for the car. We'll get into the body and chassis and the engine and trans plans. Say that a few times fast. As far as overall plans, I'd say from the beginning, my plan has always been the same with this car. It was always a very fun to drive little commuter. The diesel engine with the low torque, Really made it kind of zippy to drive. Sure, it wasn't the fastest thing out there and never will be, but it was rather quick for what it is, as long as you're not going up a hill. To be able to pass vehicles safely, to be able to merge into traffic safely, things like that. It's kind of hard when you have 90 horsepower on the stock engine when it's all running properly. The car just wasn't safe to drive in general, and it was really just a lemon that I got from the previous owner. But I just have always wanted to change that with this thing because I always enjoyed the body style of the early 2000s Golfs. It was kind of like the whole, Midnight Club, get your starting car, Need for Speed, something cheap. Usually it was a GTI, but or an R model, but I learned later on in life that I love the diesels, and we just want to try to take this thing to a nice 180 horsepower for now. Um, we're looking to do that with just a bigger turbo and bigger injectors and a better tune. Um, Down the road, we may possibly end up changing plans just to see what's capable. But that's all still to come. As far as the body, the only real plans for the body right now are that we have a fiberglass R32 body kit that my father got for me. Um, as far as the paint goes, the paint's going to stay the same. I love the paint color. The code, if anybody's wondering, is 7D. 7D. It's uh, indigo blue pearl is the name of the paint. I went to paintscratch.com and got 2 cans of uh, paint match spray paint, and it was not very expensive. I haven't had to use it yet, but I will eventually. Um, but it's just a really nice paint. When you get it in the sun, I'm sure being totally stock and fresh and brand new was a lot better. But even for me, I would get it in the sun after a nice wash, and you could actually see the pearlescence in the paint. It was kind of nice. So I just want to keep it the same. That, and then I don't have to paint the door jambs new. As far as the chassis plans, we really don't have any currently. We're not modifying anything that I'm aware of. We are adding a couple of strut bars and sway bars and some skid plates that are better than the stock ones, but no fuel cell, no rear wheel drive, no all wheel drive conversion. The transmission's going to end up staying the same, just a different one. As far as engine and transmission goes, like I said, we'll keep the stock engine, try to bring that up to about 180 horsepower. The transmission will be the same type of transmission, just a different one specifically, so that I can tear this one apart and rebuild that one, just as a backup to keep around. Next, we'll get into parts, what brands and what sites I use. As far as brands go, I could sit here for an hour and probably name off all of the different brands that have either gone into this or will go into this project. Um, it's just a huge conglomeration. I mean, uh, Eibach, Euro Parts, Bosch, genuine Volkswagen for a lot of these things that are very hard to find. But another site that uh, has a lot of hard to find parts is actually ECS Tuning. They were the only people I could find the brake lines from the ABS module to the rear axle through. And it wasn't exactly cheap, but they were the correct part and they shipped relatively fast. As far as the sites go, like I said, ECS Tuning, they're great. VW Parts Vortex, Cascade German, Dark Side Developments. I love those guys. Kerma TDI. I'm hoping to go through them for my tuning, at least initially. Um, Again, it's so many parts, so many sites, so many brands. There's I could sit here for hours and talk about all of the different brands and sites and all that stuff, but I will put links in the description for as many of these as I can. Hopefully, I can overlay with some screenshots, um, to just show you some of the sites that I use or have used or will use. If not, like I said, I'll link them in the description. What's done so far? Um, Funny enough, it's actually not a lot in terms of putting things back on the car, as far as taking things off of the car. If you uh, are a member of my Discord channel, which is free, I don't ask anybody for anything money wise. You'll see that the bumpers are off, the fenders are off the front, everything underneath the car is off that could be taken off. Um, the entire suspension, the steering, the entire engine bay is completely cleared out, sans the wiring. I had to leave all of that in place just because I didn't know if I could get another wiring harness without buying a whole nother car. Um, but I've replaced a bunch of weather seals. We've sprayed the car with undercoating, which in this case was Flex Seal, just because I wanted to try it, just because it's available everywhere pretty much, just to see how it holds up. I did not use the undercoating style or automotive style of Flex Seal. I did use regular everyday Flex Seal. So just something to keep in mind. Um, but as far as what's all done to the car, nothing crazy really yet has been done with the car. It's been a very long process. It took quite a while to get all the parts off. I had to source a bunch of parts from various websites. I spent a lot of time just getting parts in, or trying to find parts, researching stuff, coming up with ideas for different things, seeing which ways I could go with those. And hopefully soon here, we're going to be getting the ball rolling on throwing parts back on this thing to get it roadworthy again. Um, it is going to end up being more of a summertime car, fair weather car, if you will, but that's just what these things end up turning into, I guess. Coming soon. What are you going to see soon? Hopefully, we're going to get the fuel tank drained out. I'll clean it out. It is just a plastic fuel tank, so it's not like it has rust or anything, but it could have some algae. It has been sitting for a while. I believe the car has been on this lift for um, just about 2.5 years now. Um, so there's probably some crud in the fuel tank that we need to clean. We need to get the old in-tank pump out anyway, because we're going to go with the model from the later generation, or sorry, the split in this generation of car, when they went from the VE style ALH to the PD style motor, where they had an in-tank lift pump. We'll be putting one of those on hopefully at some point. Doesn't need to be immediately. That's something we can do with the fuel tank on the car, so that's not a major concern right now. Um, Once the fuel tank goes on and that's all cleaned up, strapped up, and thrown on the car, the rear axle should be able to be put together for the most part and thrown on the car. Um, we could run the brake lines from the ABS module to the rear axle, but I may end up waiting only because I want to get another brake booster. I would like to get another ABS module just to have this one on the shelf that's on it, but unfortunately, they are at least $1,000 the last time I checked. So we may end up having to uh, just keep the one we have. Getting into the last few questions here, or things to talk about. Social media. Unfortunately, right now I'm not really on a lot of social media. I do have this YouTube channel. I have a Discord channel, which I link in every video and in my channel bio. Um, and I do have a TikTok. I don't believe I've linked that to my YouTube, but it does have the same name as my YouTube channel. Um, I may develop an Instagram for it at some point. It all just depends on feedback from you guys. You guys are gonna make this channel what it is. It's not about me. I just provide content. You guys are what make this channel interesting and, compelling to continue on. Um, but I know one of the big things that people love to talk about with project cars is the cost of things, transparency. You every time you're looking for something online, you try to get some advice from somebody. What do they want to do? They want to do a half-hour long video where they're breaking down the cost of all of their labor, and oh, I can't take into account the electricity and keeping the lights on. Nobody cares about that. People just want quick, simple, what did it cost for everything that you've done. The car itself, for me personally, was $4,000 when I purchased it. And you're probably, if you're smart about these things, you're probably saying, man, that's kind of high. Yeah, it sure was pretty high. I'd say, face value, this car was probably worth about 2 grand at the time, maybe. Uh, Depends on if you're in a good mood that day, I guess. I wish I had known uh, more about the car before I had made the purchase, but you live and you learn. As far as parts go, I've got a couple of tables of parts. I'm still buying parts. You're always going to be buying parts for cars like this. I would say I've easily spent at least $3,500 just on parts so far. I would not be surprised if I've spent nearly $4,500 on parts so far. I don't have an accurate count right now. I can just give you a rough ballpark that I know is very accurate ballpark. Almost 9 grand, 8 grand for a 2002 Volkswagen. And unfortunately, it doesn't stop there because we also have to get the transmission, like I talked about earlier, from Import Performance Transmissions down in New Jersey, and their O1M performance, sorry, upgraded performance transmission is roughly $4,500. So if we do nothing engine wise as far as having someone machine it, clean it, anything like that, if I didn't buy another part and I only got the transmission, you're talking roughly $13,000 for this particular Mark IV Golf. But the biggest question everybody always wants to know about after cost is it worth it? And it's subjective. If I ask the Mustang community or the truck community, hey, do you like my car, my project car? 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to say no. A lot of people don't like cars like this anyway. Little diesel commuters. They're just looked at as it's supposed to be a commuter, or, the bad guys in the community, unfortunately, just like to have them tuned to where it's just black smoke everywhere and they're just super annoying. And I'm not personally into that. If that's your thing, go right ahead. More power to you. If you want to waste your fuel, that's fine. Not everybody is into things like that. Look at just car shows in general. Everybody has some different preference. It's going to be like that for everything, no matter what. This isn't Project People Pleaser. This is Project Nicole. This is just something to make me happy more than anything. Something that I can say that I built that with my hands, and sure, I had help along the way, but that's how it goes for everybody. Nobody's going to be able to completely hand build everything all the time. It would take quite a bit of skill and a lot larger shop and more tools than I have access to. But either way, is it worth it? I say yes, but again, it's subjective. So if you think it's cool, let me know in the comments. Send me an email, complain, gripe, bitch about it, whatever you want to do. If you got questions, post them down below. You can send an email to the channel. There's a Discord where things can get a little bit crazy. But either way, just let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and I look forward to seeing you come back to my channel.